very excited to welcome Elisha London as our first speaker. Welcome to the event, Elisha.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
So you are the United for Global Mental Health founder and CEO, and obviously have a bit of an overarching view on both what the mental health crisis is, but also what we need to be thinking about and doing about it. And we've got people from over 50 countries dialing in today. So hopefully there will be a bit of a flavor, something for everyone. So just get us started, Elisha, set the scene. What is happening around the world when it comes to the topic of mental health amidst the uncertainty, as Tom said, and the global pandemic?
So what we're seeing around the world at the moment is, in many countries, it's important to say not all, that mental health is coming to the fore as a topic of conversation, particularly at work, as something that's really important for employees and individuals, families, and also leaders. I think it's really important that we recognize in the places where this conversation is moving forward, it's really important to acknowledge that we have a history of neglect and inaction on mental health. And actually, our world wasn't set up to respond to the growing mental health crisis before COVID. And as we see that accelerating, the UN Secretary General has explained it as we're seeing mass psychological distress in a way we haven't seen before. And we're also seeing those who struggle with pre-existing mental health conditions struggle to access the support they need. And that kind of environment of increased need alongside historical neglect means we're in a really difficult spot now. We've likened it to it's a crisis of inaction. Actually, that's what we're struggling with now. And so to give you a sense of how we're seeing this play out in a couple of ways. So in governments at national levels, on average, mental health has received on average 2% of a health budget,
right,
despite the burden being significantly higher. And during COVID, we're seeing mental health services being disrupted, and up to 93% of countries have seen services disrupted. So historical neglect, a disruption, an increasing need. And yet, in a report that the WHO put out just around World Mental Health Day, only 17% of countries have actually responded to that. Mental health is not being included within national response plans anywhere near that it needs to be. And so we really do have this big crisis of inaction happening. I think it's important, though, also to say some of the movement we're seeing happen really quickly is in the workplace. And that's a really positive thing, I think, because leaders are recognizing this isn't optional anymore. We have to look after the mental health of our employees in such difficult circumstances, varying from isolation and working at home to the furlough schemes or job losses and the stress that brings right across families, communities, and businesses. This is really a non-negotiable now.
And I love that you brought up the fact of budget, because it's all good and well to have our top tips that we're going to hear in a minute from the first panel around leadership. What are some of the things we can do to create psychological safety, listen, look after our people? But actually, if you don't have the investment backing it up, it's really hard on a national scale to be offering the effective support. What do you think, why else is there this inaction? Because the statistics don't lie. This is suicide statistics, the amount of people trying to access support, even long-term absence in certain countries where that's sort of the structure. Why do you think there's still inaction when this conversation has been going on for a long time?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons for that. I think, we actually didn't know global data about mental health until around the year 2000. So it was very unseen for a long time. Plus the stigma has meant that it's just not been an issue that's driven to the top of a business or a political agenda before. In some countries, we're seeing that change, but stigma still persists, especially at a time like this when people are scared for their jobs. Do you really want to be raising your mental health challenges? Stigma, we know, is in a recent report said around 80-90% of people with mental health conditions experience negative stigma and discrimination at work. And so that's
why talk about it, right? So that you've got that shame. You want to pretend like it's not there until maybe it's too late or you're in a crisis spot.
Exactly. And yeah, it's really interesting. So when we're seeing it, I think stigma is a big part to play. I don't think we've had leadership in all the places that we need to accelerate an issue. I think that's important. The evidence, though there is evidence of what works, and actually when you do invest in mental health, we know there's a 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 return on an investment, both for a business and also for a government. So again, the case is clear. What those investments in, we know a lot of what works, and so investing in those things that work, safe spaces, leadership, access to care when you need it, early intervention, are great. The Wellcome Trust are doing some brilliant research on understanding more of what works. So I think there's been some question marks over that, and I think we need to be very clear about what works now, as well as continue to invest in the evidence as well.
So there's a greater body of research from Western countries, but also globally, spanning different places. I'm curious about the World Health Organization and any sort of guidelines or frameworks or suggested ways of working. Like, could they become mandatory, or are there some real clear guiding points for businesses?
It's a great point. There are amazing organizations that have been at the forefront of this for a long time. So One Mind in the US does amazing work, City Mental Health Alliance, Mind here in the UK. I think it has been particularly in some countries, and they have built out guidance. So a range of them have a range of different, here are the 6 things to get working, from leadership to safe spaces to having access to care at work. They're the kinds of things we know that works. We know also that there are guidelines in development that the WHO are working on, and really look forward to bringing those to the fore. But what's also really needed, and what some of the feedback we've had from particularly those that are working in countries that haven't had a wealth of workplace mental health focus, like some countries, there's a real question of how do you do this in countries where there aren't strong emergency employee assistance programs, or stigma is even more rife, in countries where suicide's illegal? Like, how do you do this globally? And so we've been really pleased over the last, actually it's been in development for a while, to bring together a dedicated group of multinationals, those experts, to build an accelerated how-to action framework, which we're building at the moment, and we really look forward to bringing that together in a consolidated way for a global audience. So we know some of what works. There are gaps. We need an accelerated effort to bring that knowledge and disseminate it together, and we have to do it fast. I think that's one of the main things we've realized during this time of COVID.
So it's really reassuring that there are conversations happening. There's research being done. There's a lot that's been done over the back end that in a way it's just escalated during this time. Yeah. And we know that a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs. They're maybe small and medium-sized businesses, just that really like 1 to 5, 10, 50, that's, so it's less of a, let's go to HR or sort of organized structures around learning and development. Like, where can those people start, either with that conversation themselves, or like to get the right guidance for that sort of level of business?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really great point. Actually, at United for Global Mental Health, we're only 2 years old. So we've gone through this as an organization, as a small business, and obviously something we would take really seriously. I think the first thing to say is recognize this is tough. So
it's
tough,
don't be too hard on yourself. Right?
It's tough, and it's real.
Yeah.
So addressing mental health is not only just so important, it takes work, and it's okay not to have it completely set from the beginning. This is a journey that we need to go on. And so it begins first with looking after your own mental health. And I think it's so important for leaders to make sure you are managing your mental health, you're being proactive, you're seeking help if you need it. An organization needs its leaders to be mentally healthy. And so be really honest about it and seek that as an individual. I think learning from those roadmaps that do exist on the various things to do, like make sure you have a safe space for your employees to talk if they need it. Make sure you're bringing access to care, which I know is tough, especially in many countries, but finding ways to make sure that that's made available. Treating mental health as you would physical health. It's all health. So if you're struggling how to do this, just often taking that lens helps. If someone's mentally not feeling well, would you give them sick leave the same way? Treating it with parity is really important, and continue to learn. So there's great guidance out there. There's more coming out, and just be committed to that journey. I think that be kind to yourself, be kind to your teams, and I think keeping front of mind. I'm actually, honestly, I've been surprised over the years as to why mental health hasn't been taken more seriously. What's more important than the health of our minds and how we bring them to work, especially in this digital world? What could be more important?
Well,
So
absolutely.
Keeping that front and investing in that, however you can, and whatever works best for you and your people.
Sure. So awareness, investment, and I love how you're saying it starts with you. So if you're the leader, the CEO, the founder, like, lead by example in the open conversations around this and that equality around mental and physical health. Finally, in our final couple of minutes, there's so much doom and gloom out there of like unprecedented times, uncertainty, and certainly the mental health issues on the rise for many people. Are there any opportunities here? Do you see that this time is offering us any type of opportunity? What do you think?
I do. I think this is a tragic time. I also think that it is also a time where individuals are asking these questions in a way they haven't before, and businesses in particular are having to ask these questions for survival, for the health of their teams, for productivity. This is an opportunity in time to say, let's take this seriously. We need to get it sorted now, but let's build back better. Let's build back a better, healthier work environment. We have to do it now out of necessity, but we can also take it forward to have stronger and healthier businesses in the future. And then the second point I would say is just keep an eye out on the initiatives where we'll be launching next year that are really being designed to make this easier. And speak with others. Joining these types of events is so important because we've got so much to learn from each other, and we have to be collaborative and do that together.
I love that. So thank you so much, Elisha London, for setting the scene for us around mental health and how we can just get started, and also where to find some of that key information that exists now but is developing as we go along. Thank you, Elisha.
Thank you.